One of the best things about leaving your job and creating a different kind of life is you can do it on your own terms and on your own schedule.
So now we're about to head out on a road trip to the Pacific Northwest and take our sweet time getting back.
After decades of building our business and selling it, we decided to leave our jobs and design a new life that's not just about money or success, but about getting just a little bit closer to happy.
Hey guys, we're on Mount Tabor. So since our last update, what are some of the things that have come up for you?
So we've been doing, one of the things that we said at the beginning of this year was that we wanted to be taking classes and learning more things and taking seminars and just kind of learning and continuing to allow the space to figure out what's next. So we've done a Tony Robbins business mastery workshop, 5 days, intense 12, 14-hour days.
I'm taking some video editing courses, even though I've run an agency for so many years. I always hired editors, so I'm realizing I actually need to learn how to do this. So studying that.
And we've done a brainstorm with one of our ex-employees who's a dear friend now, and just trying to explore all of the things that we're interested in doing inside, sort of setting parameters and getting clear on the parameters, some of them being we only want to do things that have some meaning. We want to do things that are fully able to be remote so that we can go and live and travel wherever we want, since we're planning on being in Portugal for an extended period of time this year and then hopefully moving there next year, which is the plan.
Some of the stuff that's come up, is still the same as it was, which is how fast should we be starting the next thing? What are we doing with our time when we're not accomplishing X amount of things in X amount of hours? How to reconcile that, because that's a habit that we all have that we're trying to fight. So another thing that's come up is the idea that when you leave a career, especially a high pressure, high stress career like advertising, that this time off might make you lose your edge, that there'd be some kind of slipping from the ability to keep up with that kind of thinking, that kind of pressure and that kind of intensity, which may be true, but what we're finding is that the time off, you're training a different muscle. And it's definitely a different muscle from the adrenaline-fueled, stay on top of everything, juggle 100 balls, and be edgy. It's giving us time to kind of hear the things that are coming up between the spaces, And it feels like those skills are probably going to be more important going forward than the ones where you can work 15 hours a day and crank, right?
Yeah, and we have the space to learn new things. So learning about Web3, learning about just different ways to do business, ways to think about business, going and doing meditation retreats and doing the things that we're doing. We're still learning, and we're learning new things that I think have more value than doing the same job that you've been doing for 20-something years.
Look, we're trying to evolve into the next thing, and the next thing most likely is going to need skills that are different than the last thing. So that's why this is all making sense. But the reason I bring it up is just because there are moments along the way when you might start thinking, oh my God, my chops for working 15 hours a day are slipping because I'm starting to enjoy this other kind of tempo. And what I believe we're tapping into is something that is going to become really important going forward. So we'll see. That's why we're keeping you guys in the loop. But I do believe that's what's happening here. I'm proud of us for actually doing it the way we're doing it and not collapsing into, oh God, let's just start another agency. Because that's the temptation, is to do what we know, and it's easy money, and right now that sounds like maybe something we should be doing, but then again, we really in our gut feel that it's not yet. So following our gut in spite of our brain, how's that? That's the theme of the moment.
And continuing to stay as present as we can. We took a road trip up here because we didn't want to be on a plane with our new grandson, and so we took a road trip and saw dear friends in Marin, and then stopped in Ashland, Oregon, which is very adorable, and had a blast on the way. It wasn't even, the destinations were sort of secondary. The trip itself, we had so much fun, and we listened to Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying, or something along those lines. And it was really good information, even though it's very old and some of it's incredibly dated. But there's still just great information about how to control your thoughts, how to stop worrying. And one of the exercises that jumped out to me is looking at like, what's the worst case scenario, and really like writing that down. What's the worst outcome, worst possible outcome, and what's the fallout from that? The second step is acceptance of that worst case scenario. And then the third step is, what can I do to mitigate the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah, because our expectations are always much worse than reality. So it's a good reminder of something that we all should be reminded of now and then.
Yeah. And he talks about optimists, which I am an optimist, as wild-eyed, slap-happy optimists. So that's what Cliff is calling me now.
That is what she is.
Yes.
And I'm a realist. I'm grounded in reality.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Anyways, that's where we're at, and we'll check back later.
Hey guys, we're checking in from the Oregon coast. We're at Gold Beach, where the Rogue River meets the sea. Really spectacular coastline.
Still Oregon, but getting towards California.
Yeah. On our drive, we've been listening to 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. I've referenced it before, but we're listening to it on tape and really getting so much more out of it again. And what were you going to say? You're about to interrupt me, so go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm not interrupting.
Yeah.
It's your thing. Okay.
So a couple of things that yesterday we learned, or that we were talking about, is really the number one thing was really not taking your time for granted. We're not guaranteed any time. We're not guaranteed any future time. And we all spend so much of our lives thinking about ourselves, imagining ourselves, only when this happens, we're going to be happy. And when I'm there, I'm going to be happier. When I do this, I'm going to be happy.
It really comes down to, you're always going to recreate the situations that are kind of where you're at and what your perceptions of life are at that moment. And that doesn't change. That's why people who have $1 billion can still be very unhappy. And people that don't have any money can be very happy if their focus is on something that feels fulfilling. So this book's a good reminder of that. There's another book that I read many, many years ago called 1 Year to Live, which sounds as morbid as 4,000 Weeks, really, just in a different way. It's just that there's a limited time on the planet, so live this year as if it was your last, and therefore you would be very present in the moment, etc. So this book gets into some of that with some different slants to it, and we're getting a lot out of it. And it's making us, like, when we go to a beach like this, we look at this beach and we think, normally we would think, oh, well, this is great. We have to take note of this and come back someday. But we may not come back here someday. So while we're here, we should really look at it as this is the one moment we're going to get to be here. So we're trying to soak up the beach in that way and the experience in that way.